Chapter 17. Remove the stress. When an automobile, dynamo, tractor, or any other piece of machinery shows strain, the alert owner looks for the cause. If one part is out of line, he knows something has to give way or break. That it is with the mind and the body. If the thinking is out of line or the rhythm or function remains disturbed, the health breaks. It breaks because of the wrong use of the I am, and not because of any inherent weakness or limitation in the stream of life. Consciously or unconsciously, we have used a perfect law in an imperfect way. In the case of sickness or disease, the stress is not only in those subconscious thought patterns that we build up for ourselves, but also in the patterns that have been handed down to us from all ages past. They are legion, of course, and are all key to the ancient belief that man is born to suffer. A change of belief is consequently the basis of all spiritual healing. Since the subconscious mind tends to materialize all images, beliefs, ideas, and suggestions impressed upon him, we must not only change the belief, but also realign ourselves with the principle. We accomplish these two purposes through affirmation and denials, recognition and non-recognition, affirming the good and withdrawing attention from the bad. Disease is not a thing of itself. It is a negative condition resulting from misused and misdirected thought and belief. We should be able to use the life force as we desire. We should reflect it as perfectly as we can. And what she said to herself was this: the use of self-talk in getting what you want from the universe is simply the ability to form mental equivalents that correspond to your expectation and desire. In this way, you can bring the power of the subconscious mind to act more directly and more quickly upon your desires than you could through ordinary declaration and petitions. By talking to your subconscious mind about the things you want, you bring your desire to life and give it power. The answer comes, however, not from the subconscious mind, but from the God self that is eternally linked with it. When you keep your mind filled with affirmations and decrees that correspond to the desire you are seeking to realize, you cause your subconscious mind to give its undivided attention and power to your needs. Focused on one objective, it ceases to dissipate its force. The antidote for strain. Before one can eliminate the sense of strain from his life, he must find the occasion for it. It may be any one of 1,000 things, but prominent among the cause are self-centeredness and inner tension. Trouble is usually in the thought, and when the thought is healed, the trouble is healed. The God-centered mind is always at peace. It is like the cyclone that draws its power from a central calm. Out of the peace comes poise, out of the poise comes power, and out of power comes plenty. When the mind is centered in peace, the body, soul, and mind are like an electric clock that rewinds itself automatically. They are revitalized, recharged, and renewed by omnipotent power without any voluntary effort on the part of the individual. Let us consider the source from which most strain and tension spring: a disorganized mind. Its owner never makes up his mind, never decides, and never reaches a conclusion. His thought flits from one problem to another like a fly about a picnic table. He is always confused, always debating, always deferring. His mind is disorganized because it is cluttered with defilement and postponements. These things this person wants are usually in the will call. He is overactive physically because he is impotent mentally. He talks loud because he has no conviction. He whistles to hide his fear. He is noisy because he does not know what to do in the stillness. He is disturbed because he is insecure. He is restless because he is tense. He is nervous because he is out of tune. What shall we say to him? How shall we restore his sense of balance and his poise? How shall we teach him to live creatively and with a minimum of strain? There is but one way, as Jesus taught, and that is by living the involuntary life. Of what does the involuntary life consist? It consists of doing nothing of oneself, but in letting God think, live, and work in one. When we think of Joshua, we think of noise, friction, confusion, loud talking, the blare of trumpets, the tramp of marching feet, and the crash of falling walls. When we think of Jesus, we think of peace, calm, quiet, steadfastness, indirectness, laborless activity, and directed power. Be still and know that I am God. God is most powerful in stillness. He cannot be known on any other term. Let us begin to apply this principle to our lives by examining ourselves each night to see how much we have allowed God to do in and for us, and how much we have done or tried to do for ourselves. After this examination, we must, through self-conversation, set up a new goal for the night and the morrow. We must accept all that is implied in the words, and the government shall be upon his shoulder. America's worst malady. We used to say that there were only two kinds of people in the world: those who had been operated upon for appendicitis and those who had not. Now we classify people according to their blood pressure. A well-known doctor said, American business and professional men are not living out their normal life expectancy. The tension and pressure of these troubled times, the pace of American life, worry and uncertainty, are wreaking havoc among these men of 40 and more. They are dying altogether too soon. heart disease, high blood pressure and arterial disease, kidney disease, nervous disorders, cancer, gastrointestinal troubles. These are the worst enemies of America's men of responsibility and leadership. Note that few of them are germ-caused disease. They fall in the classification of degenerative disease. We know how to control the germ-caused disease, typhoid, scarlet fever, dyspepsia, smallpox, and tuberculosis, but the degenerative diseases which come about because of the age of the individual plus wrong living habits, too much work, strain, stress, too little rest and relaxation, are the troubles which are mowing down so many of our valuable people 40 years of age and more. Worry, fear, strain, overwork, underrest, excess in sex, nicotine, alcohol, wrong diet, overweight, all may bring your blood pressure to dangerous heights. 25% of all deaths of these men over 50 of age are due to hypertension. If you do not believe these statements, read the obituaries in your daily paper and see how many deaths are caused by the hypertension disease of modern living. The human body is not made to stand the pressure of unrelieved strain, and that is why many people are breaking down and falling apart. We can stand the rigors of the weather, vicissitudes, sickness, shock, and suffering, but an unrelieved strain is more than the body nervous system can stand. We are being destroyed, so to speak, by the dissipation and waste of the very energy that was intended to give us peace, poise, power, and balance. We are with our vital forces like the man who said, "Let us eat, drink, and be merry, for tomorrow we die." We like to be regarded as having something on the ball, as being humdingers and go-getters, but the long-lived, healthy, and enduring man is the peacemaker, the poised, the balanced, the steadfast, and the stable. The latter may not attract the plaudits of the crowd, but he will be going strong when the overextended man is lying in his grave. Let us show that we have learned this lesson today by beginning to slow down. If peace and power have gone and exhaustion is in the saddle, if we have overextended ourselves and our reserves are low, we can change this dangerous situation by changing our personal attitude and habits of life. Let us meet life with poise and confidence. Let us establish ourselves in peace and order, and so immunize ourselves against future ills. A one-edged sword. To get the best results in prayer and treatment, you must use a one-edged sword. That is, you must think and move in one direction with the law of good. The writer of Proverbs who said, "As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he," and Jesus who said, "It is done unto you according to your belief," were telling us that the universal mind is subconscious, that man is the uninterrupted touch with it at all times, and that works ceaselessly on his ideas, beliefs, and images of thought. Not only is the universal subconscious mind impressionable, suggestible, amenable, and receptive to the dictates and directions of the conscious mind, but there is a reciprocal action between the two. One gives and the other receives. One impresses and the other expresses. While one acts, the other reacts, and the reaction is always equal to the action. These characteristics explain why Jesus said, "Watch and pray, lest ye enter into temptation." When one first comes into an understanding of this law, he may be tempted to use it for illegal ends, that is, to seek benefits for himself that would bring harm or injustice to others. Such attempts, however, are self-defeating and bring much trouble and suffering in their wake. Just as electricity can be used to serve or to destroy, so creative energy can be diverted into good channels or bad. Jesus illustrated this fact when he cursed the fig tree. He used the same power both to wither and to restore. It is wise, therefore, to use a one-edged sword, that is, to keep our desire and prayers spiritually legal or in accord with the will and purpose of God, by seeking only those things which are for the good of all. Since every true demonstration must come within the law of good, we must never move against our own conscience of the public good. We must never seek a personal benefit that works public harm. We have the right to use the law in any way we choose, but we must remember that it always follows our intention. If our intention is to shape our lives and circumstance towards more life, peace, power, perfection, health, and abundance, we are using it constructively, and no evil can result therefrom. Let us watch our desires, intentions, motives, and prayers to be certain that they are for good of all and not the reaction to the raised consciousness. Let us tell ourselves constantly that we are controlled, governed, guided, and directed by pure intuition. Then universal power can devote itself to our good. My relationship to the subconscious. When I speak of my subconscious mind, I refer to that place in my consciousness in which I personalize, particularize, individualize, or use the universal subconscious mind or the law of cause and effect. In other words, here I bring myself into a position in which the divine creative energy can act upon my intentions by acting through them. This power automatically becomes to me what I am to it. It responds to me by corresponding to my belief. It believes about me what I believe about myself. It gives back to me whatever I accept or think into it. This mind has unlimited power, but it functions only by command. It moves only in one direction, acts only by reacting, and responds by corresponding. It doesn't know what to do, but it knows how to do it when it is given an objective. When I understand my relationship to the universal subconscious mind, I shall see the raised consciousness, which has been using me and causing most of my misfortune, sickness, and unhappiness, as nothing more than man's collective use of the universal subconscious mind, and I shall know that I must continue to be subject to it, under its law, until I consciously separate myself from its action. I shall also see that when I impress a belief upon my own subconscious mind, I am in reality impressing it upon the universal subconscious mind. The universal becomes individual, expresses itself in our experience only through the individual consciousness. How do I get in touch with this universal subconscious mind, so that I may express myself and more of its power? I get in touch with it by recognizing that I am already in touch with it, by realizing that it is right where I am, accepting and acting upon every belief, idea, and direction given to it, raising no objection, offering no argument, making no refusal, and expressing no choice. Its only purpose is to bring the power of heaven to bear upon every thought that I think, every word that I speak, and every desire that I hold in my heart. It is my mind now. I am in it, and it is in me. It works for me as I accept its presence. It follows, then, that my attitude, beliefs, thoughts, and viewpoints are the patterns through which this universal energy works for me. This fact explains why I am, where I am, and why I have what I have. Whether or not I understand this law, which I am consciously or unconsciously using night and day, it always follows my subjective trends, intentions, and acceptance. It always manifests for me, gives form to, what I give it to work upon or according to my belief. It becomes personal to me or to another enter experience because I personalize it in my thought. That is why I can talk myself into experiencing anything that may be lacking in my life. The patient's part in healing, since all healing and demonstration are based upon the promise that if two of you agree on earth as touching anything they ask, it shall be done for them of my Father which is in heaven. It follows that every person has a part to play in the healing process. It is not the healer who does the healing. It is the Father working through him and through the patient. That is why we have practitioners that give the patient something outside himself through which his faith can operate, someone to lean upon, some power to cure in which he can have greater faith than he has in the power of disease to break down. And regardless of the means used, whether it be medicine or metaphysics, if the patient and practitioner agree as touching the results they believe in, it shall be done for them. The practitioner stands in the same relationship to the sick man today as Jesus did to the disciples and sick people of his day. The work is done not by the healer alone, nor by the patient alone, but by the perfect agreement and cooperation of the practitioner and patient with God. It is the combined power of the two that starts the flow of the healing power to the patient. Where is the patient's faith to be centered in this process? Not in the personality of the practitioner, but in the power behind him. There is a law of compensation flowing through this process that you cannot sidestep. If you are to get results, you must cooperate. You must do your part. You must use the law rightly. To get the best, you must give the best. Are you ready to meet the condition of healing? Then let us proceed to your part in the healing process. The sick man's greatest need is not more health. The weak man's greatest need is not more strength. The poor man's greatest problem is not more wealth. The unhappy man's greatest need is not more happiness. So what is it? What is it that a man must do in order to solve all his problems? It is so simple you will hardly believe it. If you do this one thing, everything else in your life will fall into its right place. It is your part in the healing process. Put off the old man with his deeds, for this corruptible must put on incorruption, and this mortal man must put on immortality. Where? Here. When? Now. How? By the absolute and complete surrender of the personal mortal self to God. That is man's greatest need. Until he recognizes it and does something about it, he must expect to continue in trouble, problem, and disease. Why? The natural man receiveth not the things of the Spirit of God, for they are foolishness unto him. Neither can he know them, because they are spiritually discerned. This means that there must be a complete blackout of the old man, not from our prayers and affirmations, but from our behavior and actions. We must, as St. Paul said, put off the old man with his deeds. We must have nothing more to do with him. We must lay the axe at the root of the tree. We must apply the remedy in consciousness. We must reverse our thinking to that point in mind where sickness, grief, poverty, and other limitations will become impossible for us. If we're going to put on incorruption, we must surrender corruption. If we are going to put on immortality, we must surrender mortality. Man is transformed by letting the mind be in him, which was also in Christ Jesus, and not by dying. Transformation is accomplished by letting the human mind die, fall into disuse, and not by exchanging the human mind for the Christ mind. For as in Adam all die, even so in Christ shall all be made alive. Functioning in our Christ nature, we are immune to trouble and disease here and now. The Word of God is the law of elimination to the evil that troubles us. Ways to help healing process. 1. Convince yourself that there is no necessity for suffering, sickness, failure, or inharmony in any form. 2. Never accept the dreary or untoward things of life as inevitable. 3. Lay aside all criticism, prejudice, and preconceived notions and keep an open mind. 4. Put away all hostility toward conditions, circumstance, person, places, and things. 5. Never think of yourself as being in bondage to evil. 6. Let God touch every area of your life through your consciousness of His presence. 7. Keep your mind changed in the new experience you are seeking to bring about. 8. Know always that you are born for a glorious, triumphant, and perfect life. 9. Be teachable, receptive, and positive to the good only. 10. Do not try to conquer evil by yourself as yourself, but with God as yourself, that is, by the Father within. 11. Realize God's presence 24 hours a day. 12. Live in the now, think in the now, and act in the now. 13. Never allow yourself to be occupied with unimportant things, for example, yourself. 14. Do not magnify symptoms and do not syndicate your ills and complaints. 15. Pray many times a day. God, keep me from taking myself too seriously. 16. Never entertain a sense of futility about anything. 17. Keep your mental level high and be enthusiastic about life. The word enthusiasm, as the Greek word entheos indicate, means in God. 18. Never think of yourself as doing anything as yourself, but give all credit, responsibility, and power to God. 19. Know that the will of God for you is good, and accept this good as manifesting for you now. 20. Reverse the negative patterns of disease, limitation, and trouble by knowing that it cannot operate through you. 21. Know that there is no obstruction to the treatment that are being given for you. 22. When you have a problem, think of the answer and not the problem. 23. Live in a constant state of expectancy. Expect the good in every situation, and you will call it forth. 24. I and the Father are one. Say this over 100 times a day, or until you feel your oneness with God in every part of your being. End of chapter. End of book. This audio presentation of Talk Yourself Into It by Robert A. Russell is brought to you by AudioEnlightenment.com. Copyright 2015. All rights reserved.